And we're back with another episode of the Lakers Fast Break podcast. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here from the Lakers Fast Break, Pop Culture Cosmos, Game Source, and Inside Sports Fantasy Football. Thank you so much for listening to all of our great programs. I think it was a good weekend overall, a lot of stuff going on around the world. But for Lakers fans, I'll tell you what, it was definitely a great weekend. Not only one, but two major statements made out to the NBA that the Lakers are for real, that they shouldn't be an afterthought in this three-team race that a lot of people are talking about when it concerns the Bucks, the Clippers, and the Lakers, and how the Lakers were a distant number three. Everybody was on the side of the Clippers and thought they were so good. And you know what? They are a great team. Let's get that out of the way right now. They've got a very, very good roster. Excellent team right now. So is the Bucks. The way that Giannis Antetokounmpo can take over a game, their three-point shooting. Both those teams have got a lot to be proud of. But you know what? This weekend, the Lakers have got a lot to be proud of too, because they proved without a shadow of doubt that they are here and they're here to stay. And if they play like they did this past weekend on both Friday and Sunday, it could be a championship season for the Lakers indeed. And here to talk with me today about this and a whole lot more is my good friend. I know him as Tom Wong, but you know him as the guy who runs the head, or who's the man behind LakerHolics.net. You got to catch it today and be part of the conversation at LakerHolics.net, where they talk a lot of great things, including what's going on with the Lakers, all the decisions that were made by Vogel, the rotations, the whole nine yards. And here today, adjusting his microphone as we speak, right on the audio, and I do apologize for that. It is LakerTom, and LakerTom, I think I can safely say you are definitely a happy man.
Boy, it's hard to keep a smile from breaking my face, Gerald. I was listening this morning to a couple of other podcasts, and everybody's so excited, and I'm just taking my little morning 3-mile hike, and I don't think I stopped smiling the entire time, just talking Lakers and listening to everything that's happening. I think the Lakers threw the gauntlet down to the rest of the NBA and said, if you want a championship, you got to go through here. And I think LeBron James threw the gauntlet down to Giannis and to Kawhi, saying, if you think you're going to take the crown away from me, you got another thing coming.
Absolutely. There was a statement that was definitively made by the Lakers this weekend. Cannot thank everyone for joining us. Want to go ahead and give a quick shout out to our stations, including RTF Sports Network, where we're on every Tuesday night at 9. So you check us out there, RTFSportsNetwork.com. Plus also as well the Discovery Community Network. We're on there as well. Cannot thank both those stations enough for being on. Plus, if you get a chance, please give us that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And we cannot thank you enough for listening if you're listening on your podcast app as well. Just cannot thank you enough for doing that. It was a great statement by the Lakers that was made this past weekend. I'll tell you what, let's go with Milwaukee first, because that was something that I think a lot of people were gearing up for as a possible finals outlet. I would just say this, that the way they went ahead and isolated Antetokounmpo in that second half and made it so much more difficult for him to go ahead and make his attempts, his drives to the basket, and forced him to go ahead and make others try to go ahead and take the shots, was truly an outstanding way to go ahead and play against Giannis. I mean, you don't have to have one person guarding Giannis. The way they trapped him, they made him work. Yes, at times there was Caruso, at times there was KCP, at times there was LeBron guarding Antetokounmpo. They threw different looks at him, but in all, there was a group effort to make others win the game for the Bucks, and unfortunately for them, but fortunately for us, it didn't happen.
It's two remarkable coaching jobs, I think, by Frank Vogel this weekend, and different strategies in both games. What really jumped out at me, though, is that I went back and looked at the NBA stats for the two games. The Lakers' defensive rating for those two games was 96.2. That's almost an unheard of rating in the league now when everybody's over 100 for their normal games. And a big part of that was LeBron James accepting the challenge. I remember at the start of the year, a lot of people were laughing when Anthony Davis said that he challenged LeBron James to join him on the first team all-defensive NBA team. There will be a terrible misjustice if LeBron James is not on the first team, because he actually took the challenge when AD got into foul trouble against Giannis and basically did a terrific job guarding him. You saw over and over, Giannis would drive down into the key, bump LeBron, try to shake him off so that he could go up and dunk the ball. And almost every time he ended up taking a fadeaway shot, not attacking the rim, not getting into the basket, forcing to pass the ball outside. It was just all NBA defense by LeBron, who showed that he's still not done as far as being one of the great defenders in the league. And we saw the same thing with the Clippers, where Kawhi would dribble into the lane, bang on LeBron. LeBron basically was a brick wall. He couldn't get through him. And to his credit, Kawhi always makes the smart play. And the smart play in those situations was to pass that ball out. LeBron basically was just fabulous in both games. AD came back in the second half of that game against Milwaukee, and basically showed really that the Lakers have two All-Stars. I think that was the story of the Milwaukee game. Two All-Stars are better than one All-Star. Two superstars are better than one superstar.
Yeah, you don't want to go All-Stars because I think Chris Middleton is an All-Star.
Yeah, I agree with that. Superstars is the term. Yes. It was a 2-against-1 battle, and Giannis, as great a player as it was, I think LeBron James has turned the conversation over the weekend as to who is the front runner for the MVP at this point in time.
Well, you and I had both stated on our previous episode before these games even happened that we, thought that LeBron was the MVP. For me, it was different reasoning. For me, it was just the fact that LeBron is having such an incredible year and is so much older, and the different age difference. For me, that was the deciding factor. Yes, I know Giannis is having an insane statistical PER type format that it's not being approached by anyone at this point in time. And of course, his team is doing so well overall in the standings. But to me, it was the deciding factor was just the fact that in his 17th year, LeBron is playing such outstanding basketball, playing point guard even though he's played point guard, quote unquote, essentially for most of his career, he's actually playing it officially for the first time in his career and leading the league in assists for the first time in his career and just doing so many things to help the Lakers. And the fact the Lakers have been so porous off the court, with him off the court, I think that's probably to me the reasons why I had him, ahead of Giannis just by a little bit in the MVP race. For me, I just, we got reaffirmed for me this past weekend, where LeBron stands as far as the MVP is concerned. And wouldn't you know, all the analysts who were predicting and solidified Giannis as the MVP kind of changed their tune a little bit. They're kind of leaning towards LeBron. They're kind of talking about LeBron more. They're kind of saying, maybe hold on a second. LeBron should be the MVP. And yeah, that's great that the tides are turning. Also on the Lakers as well. Oh, wait a second. It may not be the Clippers, Milwaukee after all. Oh, you know what? The Lakers do. We have, listening to certain individuals out there, Bill Simmons go from, I think the Lakers are now the favorite to go. He wasn't saying that, it's not a short time period ago. But you know what? It is just great to see. As far as LeBron on the first team defense, he can play at that level. You saw it this past weekend. He hasn't been playing it all year because he has increased his output at times, but there have been other times I've told you where he plays the worst man that's out there, and he'll be 10 feet off, and the guy shoots a 3-pointer or whatnot. So his overall rating dips down. So I'm sure people look at the defense.
Load management, man.
Load management. That is load management, but it also takes away a little bit from that. But when you see him turn it on both ends of the floor, he could turn it on like nobody else.
Yep. There was an interesting comment by Simmons that I thought was just wonderful. He said he came to the Staples Center expecting the fan mix to be 50% Clippers fans and 50% Lakers fans. He said it was 70-30 Lakers fans to Clippers fans in a Clippers home game. It is a remarkable performance by LeBron James, but it wasn't a one-man game. And what really stands out is that the Lakers shot for those two games 26% from deep.
That's right, just absolutely horrid.
They still took 33 shots per game in order to you just basically have to take threes because you got to make a certain number of threes to just pay in the game.
But they were awful from the three-point line, but still managed to.
The difference was you got to remember analytics is three components: free throws, layups, and three-point shots.
That's right.
And the Lakers went to the free throw line like crazy. They were among the top teams in the league in those two games for going to the line. And James, who's only shooting a little under 70% for the season, canned 12 out of 15 and 12 out of 14 shots from the line. AD did his normal, always hitting 10 of 12 and so forth.
And that's the thing I wanted to ask you about. And that's the thing I wanted to ask you about is that AD, Anthony Davis, was such a tremendous part of this, both wins, because he stepped up to the plate and showed people why he is a great 1A to LeBron's 1, and how the fact that, LeBron hasn't had this, since Dwayne Wade, LeBron hasn't had this type of dynamic player. I mean, you could say Kyrie Irving, but Kyrie Irving, I don't know, was he truly at this level where AD is at? Could he affect the game? I mean, late in the game as a penetrator, as someone who could create his own shot, Kyrie Irving, you got to give him his props. Incredible player doing that. But
that's one side of the ball only.
Yeah, exactly. One side of the. Well, that's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to say. That you on both sides of the ball, can he affect the game as well as Anthony Davis? No, he can't. I mean, I go back to Dwayne Wade as someone who is comparable in that sense, as far as he still had for LeBron a teammate that could go ahead and do that, and just to see the type of dynamic those two create when those two are playing well, it is truly great to see that you don't necessarily need a 3. But you do need like a 2.5, and that's what they got. Well, they got a 3 from Avery Bradley, who played outstanding. But in the Milwaukee game, they didn't have that one person else besides AD and LeBron to truly do that, take over the game or give them that really great impetus. It was a collective effort in the Milwaukee game. Nobody really did outstanding, but nobody did really porous in the Milwaukee game. So I give a lot of credit to Frank Vogel for trying to find that mix and finding it enough to where he had Markieff Morris in there. He had Kyle Kuzma in there for batches. He did have Rajon Rondo for batches. And, in the Milwaukee game, there was a much shorter, time span that he was in, and Caruso was in a lot more. In the Sunday game, I noticed he was giving him a much longer, a time frame that was out there because of the fact that, he was not good for 2/3 of that game yesterday as we're recording this. But there was a period of time at the end of the third quarter that, okay, finally he's going to go ahead, and his patience with Rondo paid off. Rondo did produce in the last part, the 2-3 minute stretch where he was truly valuable. But again, it took a long time and a lot of patience before that could happen. Caruso and also as well Dwight Howard did not play in the second half, which I was surprised to see, but it worked out very well because then you force AD, Anthony Davis, to be in the 5 spot at center. And you also go ahead and have a different dynamic with Markieff Morris playing stretches. But Kyle Kuzma, how about Kyle Kuzma? Couldn't hit a 3 to save his life, but he affected the game in so many positive ways. And dare I say he played some of the best defense on the team overall?
He was spectacular. He led the team in rebounding with 10 rebounds, 3 offensive boards. But the thing that most impressed me, just like you were saying, Gerald, is the defense that he played. I mean, there were several times when he was matched up. There were several times he was matched up with Lou Williams and basically made Lou Williams take bad shots. Over and over, they kept trying to isolate Kuzma off on the wing. And over, he had beautiful footwork, kept his position, stayed in front of his defender, stayed in front of the guy he was defending. It was a spectacular performance. But it's a funny thing when you look at these two games.
I think a big part of it, you have to give credit to Frank Vogel. In the first game, the big difference in these two games than the rest of this Lakers season has been that when LeBron went to the bench, the Lakers actually came out and played extremely well. And that's always been our Achilles heel all season long, that our net rating was actually at one point negative when AD was on the floor and LeBron was off.
And I'll say this, at first it looked like it, because I was going to text you and send you a message, via Twitter that said Rondo in, lead gone. Because that's just the part where
screaming at him in the first half of the game yesterday. My wife was just like beside me. She says, "Tom, come on, the neighbors are going to start complaining," because I was just really screaming epithets at Rondo and get him out of there, Frank, get him out of there.
But he was a detriment, because he got in there and the Lakers, they lost their lead with him in there. But to his credit, came that 2 to 3 minute stretch where he was in there and he made some smart choices to help them get them back in the game. I'm not sure I'm really willing to go ahead and endure this rubber band syndrome that we have when it comes to Rondo. Wait to see how long he can go ahead and have him be bad until
it's here, and it's not going to go away, Gerald.
Yeah,
Frank Vogel does, and
he trusts him. He trusts him because
it's hard for fans like us who look at the game and look at the analytics, and they see the eye test and the analytics are both telling you, get that guy out of there. But the reality is that what we don't know, and this really is important if you've ever played the game at any sort of competitive level, whether it's a rec level or a college, there is something about the trust that the players who play with him have. And when he is going well, Rondo can impact the game. And he came in that stretch, and we really performed well. I think you go back to, you just look at the performances. It's interesting. There were some big changes in these two games, because we didn't see a whole lot of JaVale McGee. We didn't see a whole lot of Dwight Howard. And in a certain respect, we didn't see a whole lot of Alex Caruso. And Caruso and Howard had horrible net ratings for the game yesterday. They were in the 40s and 50s. They just did not make an impact at all in the game. And you look at one of the things that really stood out to me in the Clippers game is the 5 best net ratings that we had were the 5 guys who started the game. LeBron, AD, Danny, even though Danny Green looked like he wasn't there, man, great net rating. Part of it because he was along with the other guys who were doing well.
Well, he was in there just for defense.
Avery Bradley, just terrific, and then you look at contributions across the board. Markieff Morris played some center. We played 60% of the 48 minutes against the Clippers with AD at center or Morris at center. And those lineups paid off. Remember our arguments about who was the better Morris? Well, yesterday there was no question about it. Markieff contributed 4 points, had a positive net rating, got some rebounds, played excellent defense, and Marcus basically couldn't hit the side of a barn. The only break Marcus got all day was in the bad charging call that should have been called charging on him in that play where he went into LeBron. So it's and I go back to the same thing I was saying then. Marcus may be the better player of the two of them, but for what the Lakers need and the role that they have to play, Markieff is the perfect fit, because he can play the 5. He's got that extra weight that his brother doesn't have, a little bit of height and so forth, and he's just a perfect fit for what the Lakers need. It's going to be interesting seeing Frank only played 9 players in the second half of the game. And we've been talking a lot on the previous podcasts of how are you going to take a 12-player rotation and 11-player rotation with Dion Waiters coming in and somehow turn that into a 9-man rotation, which is usually the most that anybody plays in the finals. And definitely as you go into the playoffs, they're going to, you're going to narrow it down and thin out the players and make sure you get enough time for the guys who are in there to really get comfortable with their game and to play. So Vogel started that in the second half, and I was really pleased to see that.
I think that we'll have some load management the rest of the season because the Lakers are pretty locked up. The one thing that could change, though, is the best record overall, because the Lakers are now only 2 games behind in the loss column.
But several wins behind. Let's just put that in context here. I mean, they're about 5 wins behind.
I don't care about the wins. The loss column is all that's going to count at the end.
But that's all the games. You know, you talk about load management, the games. Well, first off, the next time the Lakers and Clippers play, it's not going to mean as much. The Lakers made a definitive statement today.
Back to back to back.
That is correct. So the fact is that this had to be the game the Lakers needed to win against the Clippers. This had to be the game that the Lakers need to win against the Bucks,
and they did.
So. And they did. And because, like I said, it's back to back to back in early April when the Lakers and Clippers next meet. And you could expect load management to be the theme of that game, most likely.
I think both teams will probably play second string lineups, man.
There's a very good possibility of that. And if the Lakers, you talked about getting possibly the best record overall, I would steer the brakes on that because, again, you're talking about, yes, you're only 2 games back in the loss column, but you're still 5 games back in the win column, which means that they still not 4 games back in the loss column in the win column, excuse me, 4 games back in the win column, 2 games back in the loss column. So they have to go ahead and make up those games, and I don't want them to go ahead to the point where they're making it even more on themselves. They have to go ahead and start thinking about load managing at some point in time. Like you said, they have to go ahead and start giving LeBron and AD more rest. Or at least, like, for instance, Caruso with his hamstring and some other nagging injuries on the team, I think it has to be addressed. And if that means losing a game or 2, I'm all for it. I think at this point in time, you know where you stand against Milwaukee. You know where you stand against the Clippers. You made your statement this past weekend. Whether or not you win the overall, best record in the NBA, that to me is irregardless of the point that you're trying to make. Is that you can match up with these teams, and in a 7-game series, all bets are off on who's going to be the favorite because it could be anyone's turn. And anybody who out there who doesn't think the Lakers could win needs to check out what happened this past Friday and Sunday to ensure for you that the Lakers have every bit of chance to take it all the way to an NBA title.
Well, there's a couple of factors there that I think really do play into the game. First, the Lakers sort of showed you exactly what happened to Giannis in the playoffs. Meaning he's a guy who has to get to the basket to really be effective. He didn't shoot 4 or 5 out of 8 3-pointers like he did in the one meeting and the only time he did during the entire year against the Lakers so that they would win that game. So he basically got to a point where he couldn't get his shot. He couldn't get his normal shot inside of the paint, inside of the restricted area. And you saw him missing key shots as he went down the stretch. And that's what happened to them in the playoffs last year. That's why they didn't make the finals. So I think that there's you don't have to assume. I don't assume that they're going to be the team coming out of the East. Frankly, I think that the Celtics and the Raptors both have a chance to upset them going into it. Then you add another factor in there, which is there's going to be one more game that Giannis doesn't play. And then he gets evaluated again as to whether or not they want to do anything about the problem he's got with his knee. So there's a chance he could miss 2 or 3 more games. And I don't think the other thing is that the Lakers have shown that they can do load management and still win against sub 500 teams. So I'm not ready to give in on this whole thought that the Lakers might end up with home court advantage all the way through the playoffs. If you have a chance to get that, that's something you want to have in your back pocket because the finals could swing. I mean, the Bucks, if they show up, or the Celtics, if they show up, playing against the Clippers is a whole different thing because every game's a home game for the Lakers, frankly. But when you play against the Eastern Conference teams and you got to travel out there and you're playing at a different time zone in the morning and so forth, those home court advantages could be really critical. So I think that the Lakers will still keep their eye on it. I don't think they're going to take their I don't think that they're going to do load management to the extent that they're going to accept losses. I think that instead they're going to figure that we're deep enough so that we can cover getting LeBron some time off and getting AD some time off, getting anybody who needs it some time off. And I think they're also going to be doing some playing around with seeing what happens with waiters and so forth. So I think that that's still an open issue, that there's still a chance. There's still, what do you got, 20 games left in the season? A lot can happen in 20 games. And if Giannis is really injured and misses 5 or 6 of those games, because the Bucks aren't going to take a chance. They have an 8.5 game lead. They're not worried about the home court advantage against the Lakers. They want to get to the finals because they need to get to the finals in order to make sure that Giannis signs some sort of contract with them. If they don't make it to the finals, he is gone. He is not going to stay again. And he won't sign a supermax this summer unless they get to the finals. They can get to the finals and lose, and I think still keep him. But if they don't get to the finals, it'll be because other teams are taking him down and they don't even get to the level that they need to. So I think that's still up in the air as to whether or not the Lakers will pursue getting the best record. A lot will depend upon Giannis and whether or not the Bucks are able to survive without him. They have a good record without him, but they also lost the second game in a row after losing to the Lakers. And so that's a disappointing outcome for a team like that, who was supposedly so good when they didn't have Giannis. They were like, I think 7-1 or something like that. So we'll see. We'll see on that whole issue.
Well, Antetokounmpo, he did tweak his knee in the Friday game against the Lakers. It's been reported that he'll sit out 2 games, but like you said, they have such a large advantage in the overall conference standings that it would be wise to, just keep him out even longer than that. Maybe a week or not.
They also have the tiebreaker against us because the tiebreaker, when you split the series, is the division record. And obviously we have the Clippers in our division, so we've lost 2 games there already. They have only 1 loss in their division. We lost to the Clippers, and I think we lost one other team. We lost to the Mavericks. They're not in our division. Who else is in our division?
It's
Portland beat us. Portland beat us when Dame went crazy.
Yes, that's correct.
So we've got 3 losses in our division to their 1 loss. So there's still a lot to go in the season, 20 games, and it'll be interesting.
Well, Portland is not in our division either. So
who's in our division? Wait a minute, they're not?
Golden State, Sacramento, Los Angeles Clippers, and let me see. Golden State, Los Angeles. See, we need to get these things straightened out here. So, yes, in the division right now, you've got the Lakers, the Clippers, Sacramento, Phoenix Suns, and Golden State Warriors. So,
well, then we've only lost 2 games in the division.
Yeah.
I
So
don't think we've been beaten by any of those other teams.
yeah. Portland's in that nice Mountain West type deal. I mean, they were in the Pacific Division at one point in time, but yeah, those days are.
I never look at the division standings at all because they're meaningless, except in the tiebreaker situation.
I guess so, yes. But it was a great weekend for the Lakers. Rest assured that a lot of people right now are changing their tune or modifying it to at least a less definitive stance than they were this time.
You mean a less anti-Laker stance? Is that what you're trying to say, Gerald?
Pretty much that's out there. Or individuals out there, those pundits or fans out there who were so definitive against LeBron, so definitive against the Lakers that we're just a 2-trick pony and we're not going to get it done in the playoffs. I'm not saying that you have to say that the Lakers are the favorites in the NBA. But Vegas says they are, and Vegas says they were even before those games. So,
well, but we got a lot of Laker fans who like to bet on their home team, man.
And that's true, and
that has to affect the odds in Vegas.
It does, and it does spike up the odds a bit here. Everybody knows that. That's why you don't bet the Lakers.
They must count on us as that extra revenue point.
Yes, well, that was the old joke here in Vegas. That's why you don't bet the Lakers in the over, because so many people go ahead and bet on the Lakers, and it raises up the point spread for each and every game. Yep. So it was really hard for the Lakers to cover the spread each and every time. But I will say this: there is a reason why the Lakers are thought of in that context. But I know a lot of people are modifying their tune and saying, you know what, the Lakers do have a chance. I know the Lakers have a chance. We knew it beforehand, and now we know it now. I think
even more so. Than a chance. I think that the favorite. I just saw the Athletic just came out with their power rankings,
Lakers first time in the athletic power rankings, #1 team.
Now that's the Athletic. ESPN still has them #2. So, and it's funny
Who do they
because
have #1?
who do you think?
Milwaukee.
Yeah, that's correct.
We
So
scored 18 straight points in Milwaukee to go from 9 points down to 9 points up and basically seal that game.
well, like I said, it's something that is up for debate at this point in time. I mean, it is swaying the opinion.
They have not seen playoff LeBron yet.
No, we haven't, and that's what we're hoping for. We're just at this point in time. That's why I'm not as firm on them going after the best record in the NBA, is because of the fact you have to keep LeBron and AD healthy, and you try to get them as much rest as you can. And in doing so, the overall record may suffer. I didn't say it will. I just said it may, and especially that early April, back to back to back. Yes, it's against Golden State. Yes, it's against Chicago. And yes, it's against the Clippers, most likely also doing their own load management. But still, at some point in time, those three, I was talking to somebody yesterday, and
unless we have shot at catching Milwaukee, we're not going to care about those games.
And exactly,
right there, Gerald. We'd throw one or two of those games away for nothing at any possibility.
I mean, I was telling this individual that it could be seriously a point where the Lakers give up both two of those 3 games just because of the fact that they're going to be doing their own load management. It all depends on 1 month from now. Where are they in retrospect to where they are against the Milwaukee in the standings? If they're right there with them, then that changes things a little bit, I'm sure, for LeBron. But if it's not, if they're like 3 games behind or whatnot, then you know what? Right. They're not going to do it.
Yeah, the Lakers have one goal: championship.
Absolutely.
All of the other goals don't matter, and so they'll look for their position and so forth. I'm hoping that the Clippers stay in the #2 slot, because that's basically where you want them, so that you can both match up in the NBA, in the real NBA finals, which will be the Lakers versus Clippers, the Staples finals.
Well, sure, a lot of Milwaukee
7 games at home. I mean, that's wonderful.
Yes, it is wonderful.
Have 7 home games with more fans than the Clippers.
I don't see the Clippers falling below 3 at this point in time.
Yeah.
I know Utah is surging. Their season has just been all over the place, and they're surging right now. They're now in 4th, but they could easily overtake Denver in 3rd. And if they stay on their hot streak, could actually even overtake the Clippers in 2nd. But it's still going to be quite a distance. And I think
they're not in the class of the Clippers.
No, they're not in the class of the Clippers. But the Clippers get that mode where they just don't care. They either sit out guys or they just get to the point where they just don't care. They have those
2nd or 3rd doesn't matter. That keeps them out of the Lakers bracket.
Yeah, I think that's all that they're worried about. Just whether 2nd or 3rd, doesn't matter where. They're just going to go ahead, and they're a talented enough team where they can defeat anybody anywhere, just like the Lakers can. And it doesn't matter.
They don't do it as consistently as the Lakers do.
No. But the thing is, they were up until yesterday's game. They were 10-0. I'm just going to put out the records as a full unit. They were 10-0 and are looking a lot better. They had impressive victories against Denver at home and Houston.
Doc Rivers says you're wrong about that, because they still haven't played with the guy they signed, the center.
Oh, Noah. That's right. Well,
Noah.
What's Joakim Noah?
We still haven't played at full force because we don't have Noah.
I announced that he's not really signed for the rest of the year. He's signed to a 10-day contract.
Yeah, well, Joakim Noah, I don't see him playing crunch time in a playoff game. So you'll forgive me. Yes, those days are long gone for him for the most part. I mean, there was a reason why he was not picked over Dwight Howard earlier this season for the Lakers. So I will just put it at that. But
it is interesting to see how Waiters affects, because the Waiters could really help the Lakers. He really could.
Well,
I know both of us have joked off and on about Waiters Island and being stranded on Waiters Island and all of those types of things, but that he has one talent that the Lakers don't have, and that is the ability to get his own shot. And then, you still hear these rumors that the Lakers are still looking at other possibilities, which really amazes me. And when you look and saw how little Caruso played, and you start to think about these situations, it's an interesting thing that this playoff basketball is a whole different world than regular season basketball. The strategy that is involved and the dynamics of playing the same team over and over and the back and forth and all of the adjustments that the coaches make, that the players make, and the narrowing of the rotations down to 7 to 9 guys can really just change the dynamic entirely. So we'll have to see what happens. I think no matter how few guys we get, we're going to get Rondo. I think we both have to be prepared for that and just hope that we get the right Rondo, the playoff Rondo rather than the dumbbell Rondo that just can't do what he used to do.
Hey, if Lance Stevenson can find his way back into the league as he just got picked up by Indiana, you never know what the Lakers can still try and scour the airwaves for when it concerns
we might
still
see J.R. Smith in purple and gold. Who knows?
Well, then it comes to the question: J.R. Smith or Jared Dudley? Which one would you carry? I don't know.
Somebody, one of the guys at the blog brought up this point that if you go back and look, every single time Dudley's been stuck in the lineup, he's answered the bell, man. The numbers all say that.
Do you want him in the crunch time of a 7th game series? Or do you want him in the third quarter?
I might want him better than J.R. Smith, to be honest with you.
J.R. Smith.
J.R. hasn't played in over a year, man.
J.R. Smith memes aside, I just don't think it should be messed with anymore. Despite the fact that I think J.R. Smith, even at this point, is a better player,
right,
than Jared Dudley. I just don't think it's worth it at this point.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to do anything, but. I mean, when Shams sends out the rumor that they're still looking, they're still looking, I mean,
Shams is always trying to beat Adrian Wojnarowski at something, his former mentor. He's always trying to get the upper hand on him. So it's the student trying to teach the master.
The Lakers have shut Woj out completely now at this point. He has no inside track to the Lakers at all.
He stops sending out tweets on that. Yeah, I believe me, I hear you on that. But going into what we're dealing with here, because we're in the last 10 minutes of our show here. And I do want to again thank everybody listening on the RTF Sports Network. Check us out there if you haven't already at the rtfsportsnetwork.com every Tuesday night at 9, plus also the Discover Community Network. Or if you get a chance, please send us your reviews, 5-star reviews, if you can, on any podcast outlet you can, or Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast. If you do, we truly appreciate it. If you have any questions for us, at Lakers Fast Break on Twitter or LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com. It's just been a great weekend. Even if you just want to go ahead and tell us how great the Lakers are, because we know how great they are. If you want to tell us how great they are, please go ahead and do that. But also as well, there's a great place to go for all your interesting and entertaining, thoughts on the Lakers, and that is Lakerholics.net. So before we head on out, my friend, I'm going to give you about 5 of those 10 minutes. What's going on with the folks at Lakerholics.net?
Well, everybody's pretty ecstatic about the performance of the Lakers, that's for sure. A lot of positive comments about Kuzma and about how his defense has really turned it around, his defense and rebounding. He's shooting 29% from 3, so it's like the poor guy cannot buy a 3, even a corner 3.
Anybody talking about his hair color changing?
There's been a few comments about that, but mostly just about the game, mostly just about his game.
Fair enough. And you know what? Outside of shooting, it's been very good. Very good.
Yeah, no, it's the problem always with Kuz before was that if he's not shooting, he never's done any of the other stuff well enough. So if he's not shooting and making those shots, then it's like, what are you giving us? However, now all of a sudden he's singing a different tune, and I remember getting into a discussion with some of the guys on the blog about Dudley mentoring Kuzma, and my comment was, sarcastically, was just, well, if that's the best Dudley can do, mentoring Kuzma, then what are you saying about that? And then the comebacks were several people saying, well, listen, his rebounds has improved, his playmaking has improved, and his defense has improved. And so maybe that's the thing and that's probably what Dudley is telling him, that, listen, don't worry about your shot. You have to contribute in other areas. You have to be an all-around player if you really want to stick with the team. And if you want to get a contract in free agency, you definitely have to show more than you're doing now. You don't want to leave your whole career relying upon whether or not your three-point shot is hitting or not. You need to develop in other areas. And I have to say that that's a big sign for the Lakers that Kuzma is developing in the other areas, and he showed. And that's one of the things that I think has changed a lot. We didn't see a whole lot of those 3 guard lineups that we usually see. And there's been a lot of talk on the site about how the addition of Markieff Morris has allowed Kuzma to move to the 3, which is a better position for him, both defensively and offensively. And the combination of having Markieff and Kuzma has allowed us to be bigger and to play bigger. It's an interesting thing. Small ball is one thing, but small ball with 3 guards is a total different thing from small ball where you got a whole bunch of guys that are all 6'8" and lining up against 5 guys that are that height and so forth. So I think that Kuzma has really been a bright light. It's something that in the playoffs, the one thing about Kuz is he's going to take the shot. He'll take the shot. Even though he may not be confident he's going to make it, he's still not fearful of the moment, as some guys are. So I think that that's a big plus, and we've got a versatile lineup, and we got some added depth now. I'm really hopeful that Waiters, and I like the way that they're going about. There's been a lot of discussion about Waiters and some positive comments on the blog about people who think that, well, listen, you got to trust the judgment of your personnel people, your front office and your scouts who basically have looked at all around the league at who they can get, because I think Markieff Morris has proven that he's going to play minutes. He fits a need that the Lakers have size-wise, and also for a lot more playing with AD and Morris at the 5, especially against the tougher teams. It's hard to play, especially the Bucks, for example, and the Clippers. In the Bucks, basically, if you go with Markieff or AD at the 5, all of a sudden you take Brook Lopez off the floor because he's not going to guard. His whole thing is protecting the rim and using drop coverages every time there's a pick and roll. He's not going to come out more than 5 feet from the rim. Well, what are you going to do when you're covering Markieff Morris or Anthony Davis out at the 5? Davis has been shooting over 40% since the first of the year from deep, and Markieff is shooting 40% from deep. So the changes that have been made by the office, by the front office, by Pelinka have been excellent. I'm hoping that they'll come through the same way with respect to Dion Waiters. And I'm hoping that he'll see some action in the playoffs. It'll be an interesting mix. I think we'll see 9 guys. I think we'll see a 9-man rotation, but it may be a different 9 guys. The last 2 guys may be different depending upon who we match up against and how the last game went.
Well, it will be interesting indeed as we see the Lakers progress and how much, especially the emotions and things of that nature. This week, we'll see if there was an effect by it because, they do start off against Brooklyn in the home game, which they should win. But again, it could be one of those trap games where, the Lakers are just emotionally spent and it's just hard getting up again for another team. So, maybe a little bit sluggish in that first half, but watch out in the second half if the Lakers go ahead and recover, because I see a little bit of a slow point because you just can't come off of those 2 emotional victories and not affect you in some form or fashion. We've seen it so far from so many different teams. So expect maybe a little bit of sluggish first half against Brooklyn, but in the second half, look for them to pull it out. But again, they're probably one of those closer than it should be type finishes, against Brooklyn. But then on Thursday, we have Houston. And then after that on Sunday, Denver. So the schedule doesn't get too much easier because even after that, after we talk next week, there's a double back-to-back against Utah. Right. So right now the schedule doesn't get much easier, but it is going to be something that the Lakers have proven already that they are willing to face up to the challenge. They're willing to go ahead and play off against anybody that they can to make it happen. They proved this weekend that they can match up against anybody. I mean, there was some question, even our own, LakerHolics.net and with you, with me, with TJ, with everybody who's appeared on the show, there was always a question on whether or not What if the Lakers can't match up against the Clippers?
They had to prove it this weekend against the Bucks and the Clippers, and they did.
And
one thing that really is hanging over everybody, I think, is the coronavirus situation. It's almost impossible to imagine, and I can understand LeBron's comment that, well, hell, if there's no fans, I'm not going to play. Can you imagine a game? We could be looking at the NBA playoffs with empty stadiums.
it could be a possibility. I mean, we're already seeing EuroLeague games with empty stadiums. We're already seeing a lot of things canceled, events, sporting events, conventions, major events that are out there that are being canceled, South by Southwest and whatnot. Obviously, we've been talking about it on the Pop Culture Cosmos quite a bit because it's affecting the movie industry, and the entertainment industry as a whole, which, analysts are now saying could be as much of a loss worldwide as $5 billion or more, at least $2 billion in China alone. So people are talking about that, and it is something that's very serious and something that definitely the NBA is looking at. And the memos are being passed out constantly, so they are closely monitoring the situation and are first and foremost with the looking at the players and the fans' health.
When do the playoffs start? Is it April 15th?
Yeah, in that a little bit after that, but yes, it's going to be something that they're definitely going to have to look at.
We got a month. We got a month to find out how bad the situation gets with the coronavirus before the NBA playoffs start.
Absolutely, and we've got also another month before the NBA playoffs start to see where the Lakers' positioning's at. But no doubt, my friend, there's no doubt about it now. The Lakers can match up and beat anybody that is thrown in their way, and it's great to see. No more talk about how they can't beat the Bucks.
Yep.
No more talk about how they can't beat the Clippers. The Lakers proved definitively
They now have 20 wins against playoff teams, more than any other team in the league, including the Clippers, Bucks, anybody else.
Well, the Lakers proved definitely, without a shadow of a doubt, that they can beat anybody out there. They have proven themselves to be a legitimate title contender. And if anybody out there has questions or wants to talk about how great they are, please, again, you can always send us a message at Lakers Fast Break or LakersFastBreak@yahoo.com, or share it on the best place to go for the Lakers conversation, Lakerholics.net. Well, LakerTom, it's been great talking to you as always, my friend. This week, more than most, I got to tell you right now, because of the outstanding performances from LeBron, AD, and the rest of the Lakers, Frank Vogel gets a big pat in the back from us for the way he went ahead and planned everything out for this past weekend. And definitely, the statement's been made, my friend, and the statement's been made loud and clear to the rest of the NBA. Thanks so much for being a part of today's show, my friend. Always great to talk to you. Next week, we've got more to talk about right here on the Lakers Fast Break podcast.